Hello and welcome. Today we've got Meghan Walsh and we've got Penny L.A. Shepard. And today we are going to be discussing mass formation psychosis and how it affects our industries today. And also Penny wants to expose a police officer who is a serial killer who has recently murdered, I believe, a child. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview. Unless, of course, myself and the guests can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Meghan and Penny, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to? We'll go with Meghan first.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having us back, and thanks everyone for joining again today. We've got some good news and some tough topics to cover as usual, but I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And Penny, over to you.
Yes, what I was going to discuss today is it's actually a cold case, so it isn't a new case. It was a cold case from 1983, and it's a subject of a February 17, 2022 press conference regarding Laura Ann Huziar, I think that's how you say her name, from St. Lucie, Florida. She was a resident there. She was 11 years old in 1983 when her body was found November 9th, 1983. She was sexually assaulted, raped, and dumped in a drainage ditch. She had vanished November 6, 1983. It has now been determined that her murderer was a deputy sheriff, and more than likely he was a serial murderer, meaning that he was a serial killer working for the police department, and he worked in over 10 different venues, 10 different regions and police forces. And I'm not availed as to what those were, but this region is 30 minutes from Indian River County, and the current sheriff did live in Indian River County. So that's something that I was going to discuss today.
Okay. Meghan, you say that you've got good news. Shall we go with the good news first and then we can go on to the other things?
Always, Nicholas. Thank you. Well, we've been getting continued support and people coming forward. We have a national advocate that has gotten on board with us, Francesca Amato. She's absolutely amazing. She's in upstate New York, and she has been in this fight for decades. She has also started Punished for Parenting, which is a huge issue in today's society. And I'm just so blessed. I feel truly blessed to have her getting on board, not only to deal with mental health aspects of it, but as well as the domestic abuse issues and the legal abuse issues. So we're very excited to have that. We did have the guardian ad litem did step down last week. Suddenly, we sent emails out to the DCF attorneys and the GAL the next morning, which is the guardian ad litem, a huge culprit in this racket of injuring families while saying that they are there to represent the children. So if people aren't familiar with a guardian ad litem, they are there to represent and speak on behalf of the children. But in fact, they're a huge part of why children are ultimately taken through our system, and they have a huge say in it. So she had lied several times on the stand and was a huge hindrance. So she did step down suddenly and essentially left the department saying that she had a family emergency. And so we're going to see where that goes from there. We're still continuing to look and raise funds for housing for my children and I. That's the last real obstacle, is to get stable housing for them, since they did take my home where both of my sons were born. So it's very unfortunate and obviously clear that they had no intention of my children or caring about my children returning to their home even. So that's quite disturbing, but we're pushing forward. And so just developments like that in the case have been great. The daily harassment, I have to say, has been extreme. We had a tough couple last weeks, but hopefully things are changing, and we're happy to be here and keep talking about it so more and more can get involved on a wide scale.
Absolutely. And I believe that you would like to stress mass formation psychosis. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, please, Megan?
Yeah, well, I mean, we talk a lot about my case and my father in particular, but I think that, this is a newer concept and theory that people are looking at today and talking about. So I thought that we would touch on it a little bit. I think that it pertains very much to my brother's case and the media, as well as these other cases that we've seen similar to it, which Penny will get into later how that happens, and we can kind of go back and forth. But not only is it through media, but it's also through the art world and the entertainment industry, and that has a huge impact, especially on our youth. As parents and adults, a lot of the entertainment industry, we like to say, oh, that's ridiculous, or we know better, but we're not the targets. Our children are. And that kind of, starts to create this mass formation psychosis, which we need to kind of really put into perspective celebrities and what this slave race, this notion of slave race is. When we are looking up to people and we are providing their lifestyles by us going to work every day to be like them, and creating this almost clone-like, representation or reality of humanity. I think that that's something that we should look at, especially as sovereign individuals, if you will, and in this fight for freedom. So, the art world and just how that energy manipulation occurs, how there is brainwashing. There's the notion of MK Ultra we talk a lot about. People still are unsure of that and, can't really wrestle with that in their minds on how that could actually apply. And it very much does. We talk about the tell-lie vision. And narrative versus truth I've brought up a lot before, and I think Penny's example today, as well as my brother's case, are great examples of that, especially from the emotional manipulation side of things. These type of crimes and cases truly impact each and every one of us. And especially with my brother's case, we did see national, if not global, change in how we protect our children, how we raise our children, and in many ways, how we operate, especially as parents, in our everyday lives. So I think that it's very applicable to what we're all experiencing today.
Now, in respect to the psychosis that you're talking about, what's your advice to the viewers? In order for us to make a change, for every individual, what is the first step do you think we could take to make that change?
Absolutely. I'm all about action and how we move forward and heal and prosper from these things. So I think first and foremost, understanding what the concept is, understanding and researching for yourself. People can tell you things, you can hear things, but until you really research it and cognitively wrestle with that, if you will, within yourself, that's how you create a belief system, not just believing someone else, but a truly internal place of conviction. And so I think that once people start looking into that, talking about it, and really seeing how it applies to your life. I mean, that's a great practice in itself. Never mind, having to navigate this to better yourself and to kind of break free from that. And then from there, once you realize, how it affects you, whether it's through media, through your interests, through your environment, lifestyle, and really just making simple changes towards a more natural, more grounded place of discernment, if you will, for your own self and children, if you have them, and for the future of our society.
Absolutely. And Penny, would you like to go through why you think today is important to be discussing the case that you would like to talk about?
Well, in regards to, let's just touch what she was just talking about, the mass psychosis. I think part of Adam's case was also mass psychosis because it engendered a fear, and that is another psyop that the government wants you to always fear, and sometimes unnaturally so. And there are the frequencies of fear. There are actually people that survive off of the frequencies of fear. That's something that that actually energizes them when they see torture and fear of others. This case in particular is another case of many cases. I'm working on one today where another one that I'm working on where the individual involved has had her life threatened. And, that's something when we start disclosing as whistleblowers, we know that is an inevitability that our lives will be threatened because, Meghan's had her children taken, her house taken, and she was arrested. She's been threatened. And at one point, I believe did your father, Meghan, in court say that you hired a hitman?
Yes, with no affidavits.
Right. And, how is she supposed to hire a hitman? They, as far as I know, they like money. So, Meghan, they divested her of any financial means to make money. So that's one of the things that a psychopathic individual does is he will blame you as he's perpetrating you. Like many of them will rape a child and say, well, the child enticed me. No, that's not what happened. A 5-year-old doesn't seduce, a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old. So what they do is they flip the switch and they blame you for the things that they're doing. So that's concerning. If he blamed Meghan saying that she possibly hired a hitman, that's extremely concerning. And these are what the psychopathic behaviors do. My point is to prove corruption wherever it exists. So it exists in the DOJ, the DOD, the CIA, the NSA, CPS, all the 3-lettered agencies that were supposed to protect us turn out to be actually excruciatingly devious individuals that are taking our lives from us, taking our children's lives from us, and usurping the future for their nefarious means. And generally, it's simply for profit. They're selling, human organs for profit. They're treating children as chattel. They're treating us as chattel. So my one of the things that I report on are different murders that have happened and cold cases that have been solved, and linking the police departments to actual cases in which there are allegations from this last woman, which I believe are true, that the police departments are harboring serial killers within their midst because they're trained to do this. They're trained to examine evidence and to make sure that the evidence goes away. They're trained, the CIA is trained to plant DNA and create suicides that don't exist, that appear that they're suicides when they're not. Spoliation of crime scenes. So that's what we're addressing in this particular incident, which just came forth. They had a conference on this the other day on the 17th, in which it was a cold case, and there's some interesting psychic components to this as well, which we'll get into. But one of the deputies said that he had a dream that his dead son came to him and told him to find this murderer. Yet if they arrest you and they say, are you hearing voices or having dreams that are coming true, then you're psychotic and you're schizophrenic. So, you can't have it both ways. It's, what they're doing is they're using their techniques to entrap people and to frame them and take their children and take their houses and take their proprietary information. And these things need to be exposed. So that's one of the things that I do. I try to expose those different things.
And on a mass level, that's to speak to that on a mass level, that's what we are experiencing through this pandemic, and with masks and vaccines coming out, showing that the science is not there. And yet people are still, adamant about following these mandates and these reports and things when, this is all centered around trauma-based mind control. And when you inflict trauma, like these crimes, like a pandemic that's going to kill everyone if you touch each other, things like that, then you are creating trauma, and that creates weakness. And as Penny said, which is something I talk a lot about, is the energy harvesting and the literal ways that this breaks down in our society. It's not these huge esoteric wishy-washy notions anymore. They're literally displaying themselves. And that also goes into the CPS system. When you are taking children from their home and from their environment, and you are putting them by a stranger. I mean, imagine that as a child, and you're being taken by a stranger. You are taken to hospitals, you are experimented on, you are profited from. This is mass trauma that these children grow up to be our future. So, it's very important to look at how these things affect us, and how it's doing that on a mass level. Also introducing satanic ritual abuse, if people, are interested in that, or are knowing and informed on that kind of a concept. It leaves too many doors open for our children, and we need to address this.
So what happens with this, with the three-letter agencies, when there are other members of those agencies who are good and they want to expose, and they are, the corruption, and they are moral? What happens to those people? What happens to them? Meghan, why don't you go first?
Well, I think on an overall level, there's a lot of people that go into these different systems that we've allowed, that with great intention and great heart, especially in the foster care system, the child protective services, law enforcement, military, medical, all of this. There are people that go in with great intentions, but unfortunately, where we're at as a society is that these are now systemic issues. This is built into the system. People find themselves in it, and then they are faced with their livelihoods or their reputations. And just as we start saying on a more elite level, with instances like mine of taking our homes, our children, making us seem crazy, that's on a micro level what is starting to happen within society to everyday people, and especially within their careers and within their families.
How many, Penny, why don't you answer this one? How many suicides are there? Because these people also are moral. For an example, with what happened with the child that was tortured, say by, Hillary Clinton.
Oh, so that's a whole nother subject, which her father has ties to Hillary Clinton as well. That I don't know how many people were involved that died of suicides or gunshot wounds regarding Hillary Clinton. And do you know, Meghan? Do you have any idea?
Well, I was going to say every police officer and law enforcement that were hardened officers on the force for a long, long time before they saw the laptop, none of them, I believe, are living anymore. And several of them committed suicide. I don't know the specifics. I don't remember, but, they are no longer with us. And that's directly pertaining to seeing what was on that laptop involving Hillary Clinton, allegedly.
Why are they on the laptop? Like, why do you think they were even recorded and saved on the laptop? What was the purpose of that? I mean,
Meghan, voyeurism, and blackmail. Blackmail, and the same reason why these images are on the dark web. They're there for sadistic pleasure, so that people can see snuff films and children being raped and murdered over and over again. It's for their sadistic pleasure, and again, the gathering of the negative frequency in which they actually thrive on seeing the torture and the murder of innocents.
But who would actually pay for this? I mean,
well, also,
please,
I'm sorry, Nicholas.
No, please.
In terms specifically of something like a laptop or someone of power like Hillary Clinton having this, having someone have these types of videos or this, behavior, these situations even existing. I mean, that is, as Penny said, for them personally, it is that harvesting, it is that. But you have to understand, if you are speaking in terms of Satanism or even just deranged behavior, if you will, it's ritual. It is very much ritual for these people, and it does relate to blackmail. It's doing it in your face in plain sight, inverting anything that is good into evil, and getting off on that. So it is a system and kind of a game, if you will. I like to refer to the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith for people, but these people get off on what they can get over on one another. The grosser the display they can create or perform, all of that, and then it being filmed and voyeured and knowing that people have it and still seeing, okay, how can I exist? How can I get away with it? What do I have over the other person? It's that notion of one upping, if you will, and blackmail. And that's how you create also that barter system, the security, people working together and even ending up doing things that they wouldn't normally do.
So why the ritual? What's so significant about a ritual? Is it to do with energy? Is it to do with a realm or a plane that we're unaware of?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it is energy harvesting. We all know that when you walk in a room and you feel a certain connection to someone, or you get goosebumps or different things. We also know with quantum science now, or quantum science and physics, we do know, about energy, and we're learning more and more about frequency and things of that nature within science. And so, we do have an electromagnetic energy field, and that is a significant thing that we need to start learning about. Children are very protected and very in tune, very pure. So of course, for again, CPS, I will always go back to that. The number one source of our trafficked children and the demand for this. And so we need to start looking at that it is harvesting of energy. It is great power they feel from this. And then of course, with that blackmail, they get power over it. I mean, what did he have over Hillary Clinton by having that video on her laptop? That's extreme power over somebody.
Yes, it's also called insurance. That was the file,
Exactly.
insurance.
But they do that with everybody, isn't it? Just to control them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So who was controlling Clinton? Penny or Meghan?
I have no idea. I know that there are many people at the top. I know that my brother is head of MK Ultra and the son of Joseph Mengele. He's one of the many. They refer to themselves as Satans in their ceremonies. Bush was one of the major controllers throughout history, epic controller, to which Meghan's father was very good friends with Senior, with Junior, with Jeb, with Barbara, friends with the entire Bush family. So, that kind of energy that they were radiating, I don't know how you could actually be around that and not have that same dark energy within you.
Do you think that they are Vrills, or do you think they are clones? Because we did have a video interview about this before. So I'm going to ask you in this interview, what do you think they are?
In regards to the Clintons, I know that there's a whole Gitmo proposition, which I personally do not subscribe to, in which they're saying that they were killed and that these prolifically evil individuals were killed in Gitmo. And I don't subscribe to that, only because here's my premise. I believe it's a psyop. My premise is, if indeed that they were killed and they were replaced by clones, and their clones are still carrying on their nefarious agenda, where is justice?
So why were they killed? Why were they killed though? I mean, was that the...
I don't believe they were.
So
I don't
where
believe
are
they were. I don't believe that they do have clones, but I believe the actual people are running business on a day-to-day basis. And that's just my opinion. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not with Hillary Clinton on a daily basis to say, has she been replaced by a clone or not? But my feeling is that the clones are utilized, like the movie The Island. They're utilized for body parts. They're utilized as doubles. And if you said to me, well, they killed some of her clones to punish her, I would go with that, because, if she's using it as like doubles and things like that. As far as has she been replaced, I can't speak to it, because although many of the things that I speak to sound like they're conspiracy theories, I try to stay as grounded as I can. So I can't actually speak to it. Meghan, your thoughts?
I'm of the similar vein. I leave myself open to all possibilities. I believe that more than one truth can exist at the same time. But also I do like to stay grounded and go off of what we do know. Now, saying that, we also know a lot about implants and chipping people and cloning, literally how that happens in today's society, or how that's not as far-fetched as people would like to believe that it is. I do have to say that I am with Penny on this as far as being skeptical. I have not seen any executions myself or anything like that. And actually, speaking to it, my father is John Walsh, and he is still running around doing more than he's ever done before in nefarious ways, and getting off on it. I mean, I can literally watch the, programming and how he manipulates and gains and feeds off of people's energy and emotions, and specifically my children and I as well. So, as far as that's concerned, I mean, I could say and speak on the other end of things that, my father has always been very concerned with stem cells and cloning and life extension and executive checkups, research hospitals, all of that. And he has recently had a lot of surgeries, as well as my mom having episodes of blacking out at the table and things like that, just falling out of her chair, and then them not being able to find anything necessarily wrong. So, I'm sitting in the middle of this actually right now, and I wouldn't be surprised at whatever I ended up being the truth. But, I think right now we need to keep all possibilities open and just have awareness and pray for discernment. I think this is a big lesson to all of us.
Absolutely. Meghan, I want to ask you, your father, John Walsh, is the host of America's Most Wanted and many other, I have checked him out. So I want to ask you, what is the biggest, darkest secrets your dad has ever shared with you?
Well, he's shared with me and the public quite a bit, I have to say.
No,
And
with
again,
you only.
with
I'm
me,
talking about very
well,
dark.
I would say that it's not much. I don't have much that he hasn't shared. I mean, again, what he has really been concerned with and seems to be his motive now, his frenzy now, as well as back right after my brother was taken, was really to keep my parents' lifestyle, his lifestyle and his private persona, a secret, and really put this, hero and America's father and protector of children, out there, as well as hiding the realities of their marriage, and what was going on with Adam, what he was involved in, and what their lifestyle was, their domestic issues during that time. I mean, again, my mother had a significantly younger lover living in the home with them at the time that Adam was alive. And, would sleep with, Adam would sleep with him once in a while when he was scared. Adam would quote that he had two daddies, one that went to work and one that stayed home. The lover ended up disclosing through sworn polygraph and depositions regarding the condition of the home and my mother and father's use of cocaine and other illicit drugs, as well as my father's promise, his infidelities, and my mother's as well. So I think that that's been something that's been very, important for them to keep hidden. And we see back then that they did efforts, they took efforts to keep that. They dropped the case. They started paying for the lover's lawyer. And that seems to be very congruent with what they are currently doing now, as my father's on national, the internet all over the nation talking about, dirty laundry and everything with the Petito case. So it's just, I think that, my father has a lot that I don't know. I don't want to speak on anything that I don't know, but my family does have dark secrets that my father, would rather keep quiet. And I think a lot of that has to do with Adam's case and the foundation of how they started.
There's no way we can get your dad under the MK Ultra from the white hats and we can get it all out of him?
I wish we could. I mean, that's a great point, Nicholas, because honestly, I've even joked, where's the mainstream media article saying John Walsh had to save his grandchildren from his crazy daughter? I mean, there's been a complete silence on anything happening with that, and he's been in hiding. He's been told not to speak with me, and he has not made any statements, and he has been in hiding about this. And every time we see him, he I think Penny can attest. It's heartbreaking, honestly, for me to see them on these Zoom hearings and this kind of a thing. They will not interact with me to see my children. They are hindering reunification horribly. He by accident sent me a text that we think was meant to be to his team, quote unquote, saying, look, she's still harassing me and not focusing on getting the kids back, which, he just keeps showing more and more his real motives in this and how they really are weaponizing and using my children to again attempt to keep their reputation clean, I guess.
How do you think this affects you when you talk about your father and your children being taken away from you? How do you think that affects your father and the possibilities of making those possibilities possible for you to see your children more and have them? I mean, do you find that could make it difficult for you? What is your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely horrendous. It's difficult every second. It's draining, and that's what they want it to be, between the legal abuse, the taking everything, the complete ambush, and especially my children. They know that my children are my heart and my world. And so to take that is a huge attack on someone's heart energy and their, emotional stability. It's severe trauma and abuse. And so it does affect me, but I am thankful that I have a deep connection to the Lord and that I've had the years of training. The shopping me since I was 8 kind of did not work in their favor. The training me in occult practices with Rothschilds and whoever else is not working in their favor now. And the truth is not working in their favor now. So that's really what I'm trying to stay grounded in and take it day by day. The Lord has provided, and through supporters, it's been people like you, the people that have donated to my Give, Send, Go, people like Penny that have been researchers and come forward to help us. We are really coming together and spreading the word, not only about my father and not only about these larger notions, but again, of course, about CPS and how we can actually do something to really get these issues at the root and stop them.
Absolutely. Penny and Meghan, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the viewers before we finish? Penny, we'll go with you first.
Yes, we get into a little bit more in-depth case analysis on Dave Zublick's show, which will be following this one at 11 on Rumble, 11 Central Time on Rumble, where we get into more of the associates of John. And again, this is not an actual attack per se on John. It's just we are utilizing you because of your contacts and because of the nefarious things that we've seen come from your end of the spectrum. So he's attacked his daughter, and now there is a rebuttal, and the rebuttal is a rebuttal in the court of public opinion, in which he's not seen all that well as a sterling individual. And one of the cases I'm working on is Tammy Gilley's case, and I took an excerpt from one of his promos with Eric Flowers. I couldn't even play the whole thing because he does a run-on sentence right into Adam, and he says, "Oh, now she belongs to the Murdered Children's Club," and it's actually very chilling and horrifying because I believe that the murder of her son was strategized to quiet him.
Absolutely, thank you, and Meghan, over to you.
Well, I just, again, always want to thank everyone for tuning in with us and supporting us. You can find me on Twitter at Meghan Walsh _, as well as Telegram and, of course, the Give, Send, Go. I can't thank our supporters enough. We're still, again, saving up to establish housing and things like that. I really hope that this was helpful to at least one. I will always say that as well. And I think that we just need to start looking around us more and seeing, what we've allowed, what is no longer working, and maybe even traumatizing or affecting us and our children. And not necessarily just the bad guys that we're told about, but those that we actually allow to have governance over us, to enforce laws over us, and things of that nature. So thank you all for being open to that, and I hope we were able to give you something to kind of ponder on for your weekend. God bless. Thank you, Nicholas.
Absolutely. God bless you. And I'll leave your links below so that people can have a look and support. And thank you. And we'll speak very soon. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.